Rattled by New Zealand, can India recover in time for Australia? It's almost time for the squad announcement that everyone's been waiting for. And Sanjay Manjrekar joins us to look ahead to what we can expect. Mr. Manjrekar will be picking his 16-man squad, which he thinks is the best fit for the Border Gavaskar Trophy. But before we get that from you, Sanjay, it's easy, at least from the outside, to have knee-jerk reactions after the kind of performances we've seen in recent weeks. You'd imagine that won't happen in this selection?
Won't happen because India has such a long, brilliant record overseas as well as India more so than overseas. So I don't see knee-jerk reaction, but certainly some areas of concern, especially with the senior players and their consistency. So that might just come into discussion, but I don't see any big sort of breaking news dropping of a big name.
So, okay, why don't you tee us up for this conversation? You picked your 16. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, so I've got my 16 here, and I might name a 17th if we have to get some kind of balance in the whole squad. So the incumbents to begin with, Rohit Sharma and Jaiswal at number three, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli at number four, Sarfaraz at five, Rishabh Pant at six. I've got Abhimanyu Easwaran as a top order option in the squad. And then I've got Jadeja. I'll play two spinners purely because there is, great quality there. And if Shami wasn't a question mark, then maybe one spinner would have been enough. But looking at the same quality versus spin, I'll go with two spinners. Of course, Bumrah comes in. Siraj is back in the playing 11 as well. And just for a bit of variety, I'd like to have somebody like a Yash Dayal and Akash is in the squad as well. And just a kind of 17 member if India needs somebody like a Shardul Thakur because he had such a great record overseas as a player, bowler and batter. And if he's not convinced the selectors about his fitness and his value, then somebody like Reddy gets in to play that kind of a role. So that would be my 16 plus one. Yeah, Kuldeep Yadav, I've not mentioned. So
Already not short on talking points. Quite a few to touch upon. I'll add that you have mentioned Shami slash Akashdeep in your squad. So if Shami is fit, you have Shami. Otherwise, you don't have Akashdeep in your squad.
it's a tough one because Akashdeep is more of what Shami gives you as a bowler. So I'd rather have Siraj as a variation because he's a bit of a swing bowler along with can bowl seam, and then you've got Bumrah who's everything. So I like a combination of a Yash Dayal as an left-arm seamer in the squad, and Akashdeep most likely will get a game, but because he's so similar to Shami, I just wonder if Shami's fade, whether would be a good option to have in the side because now I'm looking at only Australia and what is the right balance there.
Okay, I thought we'd spend a considerable amount of the start of this conversation focusing on fast bowlers. But now, all of a sudden, to me, the headline is that your squad for Australia has four spinners. Why that?
Because suddenly what has happened because Shami is not quite fit yet, and mm, the spin quality is such with the emergence of Kuldeep Yadav and Washington Sundar, the kind of performance that he put in. Plus, he's been to Australia before. His batting becomes a value add. Plus, what you saw with Washington Sundar in that test match in Pune is that he has the right ingredients on a day three pitch in Australia to trouble the Australian batsmen. They might have three left-handers, high release point, quick bowls in the 90, 95. And one reason why Ashwin has not been as effective is basically, the strength in every ball that comes from just having a better, body action and gift of youth as well. So I just feel that he's a very exciting option to have. Obviously, Jadeja has to be there as a bowler as well as a batter, and Kuldeep Yadav. You cannot leave him out. And Ashwin has to go there because of late his overseas performances have got better, although they have not been match winning, they've got better. So it's a tough selection, but that's how you go because you can maybe afford to leave out a seamer, but out of these four spinners, I don't want to leave out anyone.
So you're saying focus on your strengths and just make sure that that stays complete. All right, let's shift to the fast bowlers then. You've explained the Shami Akashdeep selection. Now, Yash Dayal, how much of it do you see as a gamble? As much as it is a point of difference and India wanting a left arm seam option, the fact that he doesn't have test experience, does that counter it?
See, I think there is a seam bowling culture in India now, and a lot of bowlers, young bowlers that have come in and played for India haven't looked out of place. Even Mukesh Kumar, did quite good there. Akash, when he played too as well. So I believe that if there is a pitch that's suited for seam bowling and India wants a little bit of variation, he'll do the job. Plus, temperamentally, I think all these guys are pretty solid because of the kind of pressures they go through during the IPL and where, he's recovered from five sixes against Rinku Singh and, put in a worthy performance next season. So that tells you a bit of temperament, their skills as well. So, yeah, maybe it's a gamble, but it's a good time to take gamble on Indian seamers.
All right. The one role that you haven't picked in the 16, you mentioned the 17th, if you could, as a Reddy, because India have on overseas trips wanted that number 8 who gives a bit with the bat, which has typically been Shardul Thakur. Was there a temptation to have ensure that role is part of the squad?
Yes, but Shardul Thakur has faded out, and he's just come back and played a couple of games, so we don't know about his match fitness, and maybe the selectors would be right not to gamble on that front with Shardul Thakur. We haven't even talked about the second wicket keeper that has to be there on the trip because if there's an injury in the morning, there's no KL Rahul to replace Pant. And maybe that might also get all those people who want KL Rahul in the side to be in the squad, but I'd rather have a Dhruv Jurel. So maybe my squad is now becoming like one of those jumbo panels that political parties, announce in the government when they win elections. So Dhruv Jurel uh, has to be there as a second keeper. I mean, you can't risk just a lone keeper, considering you're in Australia as well.
Now, if the selectors were fixated on the idea of having that seam bowling all rounder, Sanjay, who would you choose between Shardul Thakur and Nitish Kumar Reddy, who appear to be the only options?
I don't think it's right to be fixated. That has been India's problem as well, that we have kept looking for that all-rounder. England did it for a long time, looking for an Ian Botham replacement. All-rounders have to be, in my book, in Test cricket especially, somebody who can walk in on their first kill. For example, Jadeja, can walk in as a left-arm spinner, and then the batting becomes a strength. In Indian conditions, Ashwin can be very close to being called an all-rounder, but considering that the tail has wagged a lot overseas and Shardul Thakur's impact has been tremendous, whether it's South Africa, Australia, England, you're tempted to think on those lines. And maybe that is where, if Reddy is in good bowling form, because I don't want somebody just for the sake of being an all rounder, but he's an option to have if the selectors are convinced that his bowling form is pretty good, or he's good enough to come in as a batsman at number 6, and then his bowling becomes that added strength.
All right, just focusing on the batting now. You have room for Abhimanyu Easwaran, who will have a role to play, you'd imagine, because Rohit Sharma is likely to miss the first test. Easwaran is your opener when Rohit isn't around.
Yes, and if he does well, it will be good to have somebody like him because the one obvious concern after the series against New Zealand is the form and the ability of somebody like Rohit Sharma at the top of the order, the defensive aspect of his batting that we've talked about, and Virat Kohli as well, who I expect to do a lot better in Australia. But these are all guys who could cover up just in case what happened against New Zealand is repeated. At least you have a young player to take over and carry the burden.
And the one notable omission on the batting front is that your squad has no room for KL Rahul.
Yeah, I think barring me and a couple of others, everybody have a lot of room for KL Rahul. And it is my thing is more about being fair to others. It's not so much that I want KL Rahul out of the side or drop KL Rahul. It's about all those guys, like an Abhimanyu, for example, has been around for a long time. I think over 70 first-class matches, average of close to 50. You have to reward people who are not there around the Indian team for all the performances that they've put over the years and the consistency. So just to be fair to the others, because we've seen KL Rahul enough to know, what he can do. So it's no reflection on KL Rahul as much as it's being fair to that large pool of players that we have outside the Indian camp.
All right, there it is then. Sanjay Manjrekar's 16-man squad for India's tour
Is
of
it 16 or
Australia.
it went up to 19? Yes, it may
We
swell up
dis
to
I
18.
think our discussion went close to the 20 figure, but I have
Hmm.
taken your official word of 16 with us ready as an asterisk 17th, and then there's the other asterisk of Shami and Akashdeep based on
Yeah,
fitness, but
I'm
it's
also
fine.
tempted to put in Mayank Yadav in the asterisk thing
Yeah, all of
for
them
that.
are traveling reserves, as we call it.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful. Brilliant.
but yes, thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
and good luck with all the notifications.
Thank you.